Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Kinskey, and by the end of today's video, you'll know 2 major causes of tantrums and meltdowns, and 4 keys for dealing with and preventing tantrums and meltdowns. Over the years, I've heard different versions of this story from parents. We were at the birthday party, and when it was time for us to go, Josh had a total meltdown. I got us out of there as soon as I could, but I was so embarrassed. I felt like all of the parents were watching us and judging me. Like they were assuming I'm a horrible parent and need to get my child under control. So this video isn't comprehensive, but it will cover a lot of things I've seen over the years in what plays a part in kids having tantrums. So let's just jump in. What are tantrums really about? Are they really about a child who's spoiled or a parent who doesn't have control of their child? What I've seen most often is that in a general way, tantrums and meltdowns happen because a child is overwhelmed or overstimulated because of some sort of chronic stress. And that meltdowns happen when a child is carrying emotional or physical tension in their bodies. And because they're kids, they don't have the words or sophistication or tools yet to understand or processing what's happening inside of themselves. So they end up occasionally discharging the tension that builds up inside of them. Not in a conscious, planned way, but in a way that happens because they get to this place of being overwhelmed in their system. Sort of like what happens when we let the air out of a very full balloon. But why is a child in overwhelm and carrying emotional or physical tension? So again, usually I have found it's due to some ongoing chronic stress, loss, or trauma. But let's break that down. The overwhelm that is happening for kids can often happen because of 2 issues. A, what is happening in their environment. So that mostly means home, in the family, at school, or wherever a child is spending time. And B, what is happening on a physical, biological level for them. These 2 areas often overlap, but let's get started by looking at first their environment. 1, when there is some sort of ongoing stress for a child or for their family, such as a loss, trauma, or even at school when a child is daily dealing with undiagnosed learning challenges, when they're expected to learn, remember, and perform. Or when there is 2, a lack of regular empathic listening. Or 3, a lack of structure in a child's environment or routines. Or 4, a lack of predictability. Or 5, a lack of empathic boundaries, which we're going to talk about more. I go more in depth with that in another video, so watch for that. I'll list below. So when there is a lack of empathic boundaries, kids have an especially hard time. They lose their ways of anchoring into their daily lives and dealing with the many things that being kids, they just don't have any control over. Or 6, sometimes parents who are dealing with their own ongoing stress, loss, or trauma end up swinging between permissive and authoritarian parenting. So their child sort of stays in this unsettled state from lack of consistency. They're sometimes trying to feel better by wanting or even demanding external things to soothe. But sometimes tantrums and meltdowns can be happening because of B, undiagnosed medical and physical issues. So I'll briefly list some common things I've seen with kids who have tantrums and meltdowns who I've worked with. 1, Undiagnosed sensory integration issues that impact how a child does with everyday things like noises, the lights in a room, in a classroom, the feel of the clothing on their skin, and an ongoing experience of feeling overwhelmed and not at ease in their body by sensory experiences, as in hyperarousal in their nervous system. Or they may be dealing with hypoarousal, this ongoing sort of numbness and lack of alert engagement in their bodies, in their nervous systems. If they experience hypoarousal in their nervous system, they may unconsciously seek out more intense sensory experiences by pushing or rough play, and those things repeatedly get them into trouble. Over time, these kids can develop negative beliefs about themselves that again lead to them getting into more trouble, not feeling successful, and an ongoing sense of anxiety and unease that they're unable to name, and thus again occasional meltdowns. 2. Other undiagnosed neurological, neuropsychological, or developmental issues that affect a child's ability to do the things that adults expect them to do. 3. Undiagnosed medical problems like allergies, food sensitivities, that once again create this unease and stress in their bodies that's sort of chronic through their day. 4. Undiagnosed mental health issues. For example, one of the ways that depression shows up in kids and teens, especially in teens, is through irritability and non-cooperative behavior. Kids can end up with depressive symptoms because of unresolved grief or ongoing stress in their homes or at school. So again, this list isn't comprehensive, but these things, environmental, physical, medical issues, are the things that I have commonly seen as leading to overwhelm in a child's experience and thus to meltdowns and tantrums. Remember, our kids' behavior is always telling a story. I often find after going through a process of ruling out these things, we're able to pinpoint what is contributing to tantrums and meltdowns. And kids and their parents get connected to the help they need to address these issues. It's usually then that I often find that parents can also use some support in knowing how to hold a safe emotional container for their child. And what I mean by that is when parents are able to hold a safe emotional connection with their child, so their child is able to feel their emotions in the midst of a connection with someone that they trust. When this happens, kids have the opportunity to release emotions rather than carrying pent-up emotional tension in their body. An important note is that this is especially true for kids who have experienced ongoing stress or loss or trauma. Many times we're completely unaware of the things that can be affecting our kids' behavior. For example, things like birth trauma, premature birth, or a big loss or trauma that happened for mom when she was pregnant with this child. So to wrap things up that can lead to meltdowns and tantrums, it's so important for us to consider what is underneath our child's behavior. If your child has ongoing temper tantrums, one of the things we want to ask is, are they really temper tantrums? It may be helpful to work with a therapist who can help you assess different areas that may be impacting your child's behavior, who can offer referrals for getting your child tested, and can help you with the empathic listening, empathic structuring, and empathic boundary skills, which you'll be able to find other videos about, that emotionally support your child, so you can also help with the emotional component that may be playing into their behavior. So, Let's talk now about 4 things to do about tantrums and how to prevent them. 1, we really have to get out of the punishment and reward trap. And again, see that all behavior is telling a story about our child's inner life and their needs. So we need to listen and investigate. 2, rule out possible learning, medical, neurological, and developmental causes. Schools often do some of this sort of testing if a child's behavior or ability to learn is affecting their development and how they do in school. Child Find is something all parents need to know about as a resource for working with these issues. And again, I'll list that information below. 3, consult with a therapist to get support and referrals for appropriate help. 4, definitely learn empathic listening, empathic boundaries, and about how to support and unlock your child's emotional intelligence so you and your child have the tools you need to learn to trust and utilize their emotions as the guide they were meant to be. In learning these skills, your child will also be more able to draw strength from their relationship with you. So, if you would like to keep getting more information that goes more in depth on these topics, subscribe below. Do subscribe below. And be sure to check the list of resources below if you want to learn more about everything we've talked about today. But first, there are 3 books I highly recommend to get started. 1, No Drama Discipline: The Whole Brain Way to Calm the Chaos and Nurture Your Child's Developing Mind by Daniel Siegel and Payne Bryson. And 2, No Drama Discipline Workbook: Exercises, Activities, and Practical Strategies to Calm the Chaos and Nurture Developing Minds, also by Daniel Siegel and Payne Bryson. And for parenting teens, Brainstorm: The Power and Purpose of the Teenage Brain, again also by Daniel Siegel. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and do let me know in your comments below if you found this helpful and any other questions you'd like to have answered or topics covered. Also go to KathyKinskey.com where you can find more of what we talk about here. And remember, we're all in this together, and we're better together. Want help in getting started for dealing with your child's tantrums? Click the links below for empathic listening and empathic boundaries, videos, and free templates.